Hi, my name's Cass Hayward. I'm from the Coast and Biodiversity team in Reef Catchments. I've got with me two traditional owners today from the Mackay and the Broadsound area, and we're just here for a bit of a chat about what it's like to be saltwater people and to live off the ocean, and a catch up about culture and heritage and all that good stuff. So if I could start with Auntie Carol, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself and telling us about your lands.
Yeah, I'm Carol Pryor. I'm a traditional owner from the Whitsunday Islands. My people were called Naro people, or Winter people, as the first white people first saw them. They noticed that they travelled from island to island in their canoes, and our word, Aboriginal word for canoe, is winter, so they referred to them as the Winter people, but we're also known as saltwater people.
Smart.
My name's Samala Deshong. I am from the Koomaburra people. Our country is from Cape Palmerston to St. Lawrence, and also on my dad's side we're Dundabara from Kabi Kabi, which is Apple Tree Creek, Childers Way.
I would love to know what it was like a day in the life of your ancestors thousands of years ago before Australia was colonised. What would be your day-to-day activities?
The day-to-day activities would be hunting, going out in their winters, their canoes, fishing. Then it all depends upon the season, with the fruits and the wild veggies, bush tucker. If they were on, they'd stay there in that one island for a certain amount of time until that bush tucker ran out. And then they'd move to another island and camp there because of the fruiting season there.
About how many people were in a group?
Well, there may be 2 or 3 families that move from island to island, and the most important thing is that their protection from the elements, the rain and everything, they'd build up higher on the islands for that reason. But for the main reason, those that went out hunting and didn't make their way back at night had to have a beacon, so they'd light a big fire up on top in front of the cave to guide the hunters in.
And what about your people, Samala?
Well, I guess, it's a hunting and gathering of bush tucker, bush medicines. The women used to collect, go along the beaches and collect, shellfish and shells and that, like pipi, suckles and that. And the men used to fish, used to have some fish traps there that they used to utilise. They were like a fridge. They used to keep the fish fresh for a few days. And also the tribes from over the hill, like the Barada, used to come over and used to trade their meat, like kangaroo and all that kind of stuff, for fish and that.
Talking about hunting and gathering and stuff, you guys were doing that every single day. Do you still do that a lot?
Nowadays we're a bit more restricted with the, a few of the government acts and laws, and especially out on our country in certain areas. We've lost a lot of the bush tucker plants and medicine plants and that, so I guess when we do go out bush, we do try and live off bush tucker, but it really is hard.
Apart from hunting, gathering, are there any other ways that you still practice culture today, talking ceremonies and rituals and anything like that?
A lot of it has been lost, but what I learned from my mum and dad, I pass on to my children, especially stories. With Sunday Islands, there is a story there and about the giant mother turtle, and she used to lay her eggs on one corner of the island. She died there, and the shape of the rock is that of a big mother turtle. And today the turtles still go back there in their thousands to lay their eggs.
We'd always be out on country looking after sites and things like that, looking after bush tucker.
What do you mean by looking after?
Well, I guess just going out, some sites that we have, burial sites and things like that, we just go make sure that they're not disturbed, clean up around. We still do that to this day. I guess we call it going out and monitoring the sites and that. And I guess just sort of, we go out there, we take notice of, when we were younger, it was this season, and you take notice like, is this bush tucker growing on the trees? And if it isn't, what's happening? What's going on? So take our kids out on country and teach them so they don't lose their culture.
So what kind of disturbances are common on your sacred sites?
Fire is one. They do a lot of burns, but a lot of them are too hot and just wipe out all our bush tucker and medicine plants. So a lot of our areas aren't developed, so I guess there's a lot of human impacts. People take their four-wheel driving and just driving over sites and things like that, destroying them.
On the islands, most of our cultural heritage is protected, but there are some that are not fenced in, and even those that are fenced in, you'll get visitors, tourists, that'll step over and touch the rock art with their hands.
That's right, we saw
And,
that.
Yes.
Yeah.
You'll notice there's plenty of footprints around the caves, and by them doing that, they're helping the paintings to fade, because the oil on the hands, so I'm told, wipes off some of the rock art. And we can't touch them up because some of them are over 3,000 years old. And to use the ochre today, it wouldn't match up. I would like to get out to a lot of people. Yes, I'd like to share my culture with them. I'd like them to see who we are and where we come from. And those rock art paintings are a part of our spiritual connection. We can only claim our identity through what our ancestors have left us. So if any of that is destroyed, you are destroying our identity, you are destroying our culture.
Aboriginal history is Australian history too, so
It is.
they're also impacting their own history.
That's right. Most of the things that we have out there, cultural stuff, sacred stuff, that is the path, the dreaming path, the sacred dreaming path of our ancestors. And today we still want to follow their sacred dreaming tracks.
And I think another thing too is education. I like to work in the schools because, I like to teach a lot of the kids, like, even if they're out bush, if they're lost or whatever, how to survive. I mean, you look at people today and there's a lot of illness and everything, but, way back then, it never happened. Living off bush tucker and, bush foods and that, they did get sick, but it wasn't like today. And I think we need to go back to all that kind of stuff, and it's worthwhile learning about Aboriginal culture and how we lived way back then.
The remnants of the camps, what can people go out and see today?
In this area, the Yuwibara people, Cape Hillsborough is a good example. On one of the boardwalks, and it's on a national park, and you'll actually find that a lot of the Aboriginal sites are on national parks. But in this region, Cape Hillsborough, they do have a big Shalmidden site on one of the walks. Shalmidden was, so the women and kids, they used to go out and gather shellfish and everything, and the Shalmiddens were like where they ate. That was their kitchen, they had their camp, they cooked up all their food, a lot of shells, they'd eat them and they'd just throw them in a pile where they slept, a fair way from that, so that at night time any wild dogs or animals and that didn't come in. They went to the midden and ate the scraps, rather than them camp next to it, and they might take the risk of taking a baby or something. Yeah, so it would just Shalmiddens are big piles of shells, bone and that, and just remnants of what the Aboriginal people in the area ate.
Around the islands, plenty of cave paintings there. There's fish traps, South Mole Quarry, If they go up to South Mole Quarry, they will see where they've shaped all the spearheads. That wasn't good, so they'd throw it over there, and you know, hammers, knives, Julian knives, they carved out, and they'd look at them. If they're no good, they'd throw them over there. So at the South Mole Quarry, yes, you'll find plenty of tools there of our ancestors that they thought wasn't good enough.
And Carol, what's it like when you find a site like that?
Oh, it's awesome. I've already found 2 other sites like South Mole, and one of them I will say was made out of quartz. There was just a big pile of quartz in this quarry. You get struck, you know, you don't know what to say. You sit there and you look at this pile of quartz. Now, where did it come from? How did my ancestors bring it here? But you'd find the same thing, half-shaved spearheads, and it's awesome when you come across something like that.
Yeah. Have you ever found anything like that?
Artefact sites, a lot of the tools that they used and shaped and that, and it is exciting because it shows that, you know, they were here, our mob was here, and they utilised this area, remnants of when they walked that country.
Well, something that comes up for me a lot is people asking me about illegal hunting or traditional owners hunting protected species like turtles and dugongs. I guess what would you say to people asking those sorts of questions? How do you practice hunting sustainably?
Well, I suppose, you know, before white men came to Australia, yes, we lived off our ancestors, hunted dugong and hunted turtle because that was fresh meat. Today, I don't like the idea of hunting turtle and dugong because we've adapted, and if we want any meat, we go to the butcher shop and buy it. Back in those days, they couldn't do it. There are certain areas, communities, Aboriginal communities, where they still practice that, and they have to because they live in areas, isolated areas, and the only food that is available, fresh food, comes from the sea. But as for myself, I prefer to ban hunting dugong and turtle in my area.
Yeah, so the Nara people don't hunt dugong and turtle at the moment?
No.
Yeah.
We prefer to preserve them because there was a time when there was a disease that was hitting the turtles, and the dugongs had disappeared. It took a few years for them to come back.
Yeah.
We don't want to chase them away. We want them there for everybody to enjoy and see a real live turtle. Don't have the future children have to see it on a screen or in a book. So this is what a turtle looked like, this is what a dugong looked like. We have to preserve them for future generations so that they can enjoy these beautiful creatures as much as we do today.
Yeah, we've had a moratorium on dugong and turtle hunting for 15 to 20 years now.
Yeah.
We have a lot of dugong protection areas in our area, and we also have a big problem with illegal hunting because where it's situated, you know, it's a bit hard for compliance to happen straight away. So they know they can get in and out straight away, but I guess the biggest thing is that they're threatened species.
Yeah.
And we don't even practice that anymore. We do have hunters in our mob that are still allowed to, but you know, they just take what they need, and you know, if it's for ceremony, men's business or whatever, you know, but they just take what they need and that's it.
For a special occasion.
Yeah. I guess it's about the protection of them. You know, they were put here before us, and I guess, you know, we've got to look after them. So the best thing that we can do is protect them as much as we can. And there are mobs, you know, that do have permitting systems and everything, and that's fine. You know, that's their choice. But there are a lot of mobs more down this way, down the south of Queensland, that sort of like no, you know.
tell us, like, what is connection to country? How do you experience connection to country?
Yeah, well, to me, connection to country is, there's a few things. There's a spiritual connection, but then there's the bloodline connection and everything. Like this, we're given a piece of country, our families to look after, and I guess the spiritual connection comes from being out there, being taught how to look after the trees, the animals, the plants, and everything, along with our oral stories. We're still learning stuff from elders. Connection to country is, you know, going out there and just practicing the culture the way that we were taught to. Look after country animals and that, and they will look after us.
With me, mainly spiritual connection, because as I said before, we have sacred dreaming tracks of our ancestors. They crisscross the land, they crisscross the ocean. It's connecting back, following in those sacred footprints, whether it's on land or on sea. But also, all our sacred sites out there have a meaning. We see that following the sacred footprints, not only with us, but it's also with the animals. The whales follow their sacred dreaming tracks back to where they were born in their sacred waters. You will get birds that will come back and lay eggs where they were born, because that is their sacred birthing place. And so Mother Earth, in more ways than one, connects the First Nations people to everything around her. She ties us and binds us as one. We're all connected, one way or the other.
So if people are interested in learning more, what would you suggest is the best way for them to do that?
Source out the NRMs and ask if they, you know, a lot of the NRMs in Queensland work with traditional owners, national parks and that, and you know, see if you can get them contact details and contact them, because I think a lot of them are out there. There's a lot of ranger groups and everything that, you know, really they're out there to teach people. They do junior ranger programs, they do community programs and everything, and you know, just approaching people, taking that first step and approaching the TOs and that, and making that connection.
Yeah, Reef Catchments is an NRM group, like the NRMs you were talking about just then. And if you actually Google Mackay traditional owners, it will come up straight to our traditional owner page on the Reef Catchments website. People can also go through there.
Yeah, and that's good too, because the traditional owner reference group on Reef Catchments represents 7 of the tribal groups in the region. They can reach out and just tell everybody where they're from or where they're working, what area, and you know, you can connect them to the right traditional owners.
Yeah, a lot of people out there don't know anything of Aboriginal history or what the land means to us, why it is so sacred to us. If they can learn about who we are, where we're coming from, what we're about, what our culture is, and most important thing, of course, is respect. That's the most important thing.
That's right, and that, you know, Mother Earth provides all this for us, and that's how we lived, you know, looking after country. So she provides food, water for us.
She's done it for thousands of years. When you look at it, we never needed to grow a garden. We didn't need gardens. We followed the seasons, because with each season, as you say, Mother Earth always fed us. We were never without. We had the biggest supermarket in the world. We wanted for nothing.
That's right, and you'll find most of the camps, any evidence of you know, Aboriginal camps and that, it is around a water source or food source or not too far from it. Yeah, so that was the movements of the mobs, different seasons, you know, ceremony time, things like that.
Thank you very much, Auntie Carol and Samala, for spending the time today. It's really special and unique to be able to share your culture, and I really thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.